The cold metal floor pressed against Marcus Chen's face as consciousness slowly returned to him. His enhanced hearing picked up the distant hum of machinery and the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. For several minutes, he remained perfectly still, allowing his augmented senses to map the environment around him without alerting anyone to his awakening. The facility was massive, judging by the echo patterns of the ambient sounds. Multiple levels stretched both above and below his current position. The air carried the metallic tang of advanced technology mixed with the sterile smell of a medical facility. Most importantly, the voices he could detect spoke in Zarathian dialect, confirming his worst suspicions about where he had ended up. Marcus had been humanity's greatest weapon in the war against the Zarathian Empire, a conflict that had raged across 17 star systems for nearly 3 decades. His body had been transformed through experimental procedures that pushed human physiology beyond its natural limits. Enhanced strength that allowed him to tear through reinforced steel, reflexes fast enough to dodge energy weapons fire, and a healing factor that could mend broken bones in hours rather than months. The last thing he remembered was the Battle of Kepler Station. His unit had been tasked with defending the critical supply depot while civilian evacuations proceeded. The Zarathians had come in overwhelming numbers, their distinctive black and silver warships blotting out the stars. Marcus had fought for 18 straight hours, watching his comrades fall one by one around him. During the final assault, he had been caught in the explosion of an antimatter torpedo. The blast should have killed him instantly, but his enhanced physiology had somehow kept him alive long enough for the enemy to find his broken body floating in the debris field. Now he was here, wherever here was, apparently having been unconscious for an unknown period. Through the neural implants that enhanced his cognitive abilities, Marcus began analyzing everything he could observe. The facility's construction used Zarathian architectural principles, with their characteristic curved walls and integrated bioluminescent lighting systems. The gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth standard, suggesting he was either on a Zarathian homeworld or one of their major colonies. The monitoring equipment attached to his body included several devices he didn't recognize, likely designed to study his enhanced physiology. Thin cables ran from ports that had been surgically implanted in his arms and spine, feeding data to banks of alien computers. The Zarathians had always been obsessed with understanding human enhancement technology, viewing it as the key to humanity's unexpected resistance to their conquest. A conversation in the corridor outside caught his attention. 2 Zarathian scientists were discussing their progress with studying what they called the human weapon specimen. Their voices carried the typical arrogance of their species, discussing him as if he were nothing more than an interesting laboratory animal. "The preliminary scans confirm our suspicions," the first scientist was saying. "The enhancement procedures have fundamentally altered his cellular structure. His bone density is nearly 3 times normal human levels, and his muscle fibers show a completely unknown protein configuration." The second scientist responded with obvious excitement. More importantly, his neural pathways have been rewired with some form of quantum processing matrix. If we can understand how the humans achieved this level of cognitive enhancement, it could give our military forces a significant advantage. Marcus listened as they discussed timelines for their experiments. They planned to begin invasive procedures within the next few days, starting with biopsies of his enhanced organs and progressing to neural mapping through direct brain interface. The casual way they discussed dismantling him piece by piece filled him with cold determination. The conversation revealed that his capture had occurred 6 months ago. 6 months during which the war had continued, without humanity's most effective soldier. The scientist mentioned that several human colonies had fallen during that time, their populations either enslaved or eliminated according to Zarathian doctrine. As the voices faded down the corridor, Marcus began testing his physical condition. His healing factor had been working overtime during his unconsciousness, repairing the massive damage from the antimatter explosion. He could feel that his strength had returned, possibly even improved from the extended healing period. His reflexes responded perfectly when he performed subtle muscle tests that wouldn't register on the monitoring equipment. The restraints holding him to the examination table were made of Zarathian battle steel, designed to hold their own enhanced warrior classes. For a normal human, escape would be impossible, but Marcus was far from normal. The enhancement procedures had given him strength levels that even his own creators hadn't fully understood. He began applying pressure gradually, feeling the metal start to deform under the strain. The key was to avoid triggering any alarms by working slowly and methodically. Each restraint would need to be weakened carefully before he could make his escape attempt. While working on the bonds, Marcus accessed the tactical database stored in his neural implants. The information was 6 months out of date, but it provided a baseline for understanding the current strategic situation. Before his capture, humanity had been losing the war, but fighting with desperate effectiveness. The enhanced soldier program had produced only a handful of successful subjects, with Marcus being, by far, the most capable. His escape would need to accomplish more than just getting him off this facility. The research the Zarathians had conducted on his unconscious body represented a massive security breach. If they succeeded in replicating human enhancement technology, the war would be over within months. Every remaining human world would fall to armies of enhanced Zarathian soldiers. The first restraint gave way with a barely audible crack. Marcus held perfectly still, waiting to see if any alarms would sound. The monitoring equipment continued its steady rhythm, apparently not programmed to detect the minute vibrations of metal fatigue. He moved on to the second restraint, applying steady pressure while his enhanced hearing tracked the movements of personnel throughout the facility. The base appeared to operate on a standard Zarathian duty cycle, with reduced staffing during what corresponded to their sleep period. He had perhaps 3 hours of minimal supervision to make his move. The facility's layout was becoming clearer as he listened to footsteps and conversations echoing through the corridors. The main laboratory levels were directly above him, while what sounded like hangar facilities lay below. As he worked on the third restraint, Marcus began formulating his escape plan. Simply fleeing would accomplish nothing if the Zarathians retained their research data and tissue samples. He would need to destroy the entire facility and everything it contained, then somehow find a way back to human space to warn them about the security breach. The enhancement procedures had also improved his memory to near-perfect levels, allowing him to recall every detail of advanced human military technology. If he could reach a communication array, that information could help humanity develop new defensive strategies. More importantly, his experience being studied by the enemy had given him insights into Zarathian research methods and technological capabilities. The second restraint snapped just as a new set of voices approached his holding area. Marcus quickly relaxed his muscles and controlled his breathing to simulate continued unconsciousness. 2 guards were making their routine security sweep, their heavy footsteps echoing in the corridor outside. The facility commander wants extra security protocols implemented, one guard was saying to the other. Intelligence reports suggest the humans are planning some kind of rescue operation. The second guard laughed dismissively. Let them come. This facility has enough defensive systems to destroy an entire battle fleet. Besides, they probably assume their weapon is already dead. Humans don't survive antimatter explosions. As the guards moved past his location, Marcus allowed himself a thin smile. The Zarathians had made their first critical error by underestimating both human determination and the extent of his enhancements. Their second error was keeping him alive for study instead of executing him immediately. They would learn the cost of both mistakes very soon. The remaining restraints took another hour to weaken sufficiently. Marcus tested each one carefully, ensuring he could break free quickly when the time came. The monitoring cables would be more challenging, as disconnecting them would immediately trigger alarms throughout the facility. He would need to time his escape perfectly to have any chance of reaching his objectives before security forces could respond. Through his enhanced hearing, he tracked the changing patterns of activity throughout the facility. The Skeleton Knight crew followed predictable routes and schedules, leaving gaps in surveillance that he could exploit. The main computer cores were located 3 levels above his current position, while the communication array occupied the facility's highest tower. As the facility's artificial dawn cycle began, Marcus prepared for what would likely be his only chance at escape. The Zarathians believed they had captured and neutralized humanity's greatest weapon. They were about to discover that weapons, once awakened, could be extraordinarily difficult to control. The morning shift change would provide the distraction he needed. In approximately 10 minutes, the night security team would transfer duties to the day crew, creating a brief window when response times would be delayed. That would be when Marcus Chun, humanity's super soldier, would remind the Zarathian Empire why humans had proven so difficult to conquer. His enhanced muscles coiled like springs as he prepared to break free from 6 months of captivity and begin what might be the most important mission of the entire war. The shift change began exactly as Marcus had predicted. Through the walls, he could hear the night security team discussing their reports with the incoming day crew. Zarathian military protocol demanded detailed briefings for each position transfer, a process that typically lasted 8 to 12 minutes. This was his window. Marcus flexed his enhanced muscles and felt the weakened restraints snap like brittle plastic. The monitoring cables came next, yanked free in a shower of sparks that would immediately alert the control room. He had perhaps 30 seconds before security forces began responding to the alarm. Rolling off the examination table, he took stock of his physical condition. 6 months of forced inactivity had left his muscles slightly stiff, but the enhancement procedures ensured he could reach peak performance within minutes. His healing factor had not only repaired the damage from the antimatter explosion, but had actually improved his cellular structure during the extended recovery period. The door to his holding cell was standard Zarathian security construction, designed to contain their own warrior classes. For Marcus, it represented barely an inconvenience. He placed his hand against the locking mechanism and applied pressure. The reinforced metal deformed with a grinding sound as his enhanced strength overpowered the alien technology. Stepping into the corridor, he found himself in what appeared to be a medical research wing. The walls were lined with holding cells similar to his own, most of them empty, but a few containing specimens from various alien species the Zarathians had encountered during their expansion. The sight filled him with cold anger as he realized the scope of their experimental programs. Emergency lights began flashing throughout the facility as security systems detected his escape. Over the intercom system, an automated voice began broadcasting alerts in Zarathian language, calling all personnel to emergency stations. Marcus estimated he had perhaps 5 minutes before the facility's defenses could be properly coordinated. Moving through the corridors with enhanced speed, he followed the facility's logical layout toward the main computer cores. His neural implants provided perfect spatial memory, allowing him to navigate without hesitation despite never having seen these areas before. Each turn brought him closer to his primary objective, destroying all research data related to human enhancement technology. The first security team he encountered consisted of 3 Zarathian guards armed with standard energy weapons. Their reaction time was impressive by normal standards, but Marcus moved faster than their nervous systems could track. He closed the distance between them before they could raise their weapons, his enhanced reflexes making the engagement appear almost slow motion from his perspective. The first guard went down to a strike that crushed his weapon and the hand holding it. The second managed to fire a single shot that Marcus simply sidestepped, the energy beam scorching the wall behind him. His counterstrike sent the guard flying backward into his companion with enough force to render both unconscious. Marcus appropriated one of their energy weapons and a security access card. The weapon felt crude compared to human military technology, but it would serve his purposes until he could find better equipment. The access card would help him navigate the facility's security checkpoints, though his enhanced strength made locked doors largely irrelevant. Continuing toward the computer cores, he encountered evidence of the research that had been conducted on his unconscious body. Laboratory facilities contained detailed holographic displays showing his cellular structure, neural pathways, and enhancement modifications. Seeing himself reduced to data points and experimental variables only strengthened his resolve to ensure none of this information survived. The facility's layout revealed the typical Zarathian approach to military architecture. Multiple redundant systems, heavily fortified choke points, and integrated defensive positions designed to repel boarding actions. What they hadn't anticipated was a single enhanced human operating inside their perimeter with perfect knowledge of their tactical weaknesses. A larger security force awaited him at the entrance to the main computer level. 8 guards in full combat armor had established defensive positions behind energy barriers, their weapons trained on the only access corridor. Under normal circumstances, a frontal assault would be suicide. Marcus wasn't operating under normal circumstances. His enhanced cognitive abilities processed the tactical situation in milliseconds. The energy barriers were designed to stop projectile weapons and most energy attacks, but they couldn't completely block kinetic force from a sufficiently powerful impact. The guards' positioning optimized their fields of fire, but left them vulnerable to a fast-moving target that could breach their defensive line. Marcus launched himself forward with explosive speed, using his enhanced strength to leap over the defensive barriers entirely. He landed in the middle of the guard formation before they could adjust their aim, turning their defensive advantage into a liability as they struggled to target him without hitting each other. The engagement lasted less than 20 seconds. Enhanced reflexes allowed him to move between the guards faster than they could rotate their weapons, while his augmented strength made even glancing blows devastating. By the time he reached the computer core access door, all 8 guards were unconscious or incapacitated. The main computer facility exceeded even his expectations for Zarathian technological advancement. Massive quantum processing arrays stretched across multiple levels, their bioluminescent displays pulsing with the rhythm of countless calculations. This was clearly a primary research installation, not just a detention facility. The amount of data stored here represented years of intelligence gathering across multiple star systems. Marcus began his systematic destruction of the computer cores, using the appropriated energy weapon to target critical processing nodes. Each blast sent cascades of feedback through the interconnected systems, causing chain reactions that would be impossible to contain or repair. The facility's automated systems desperately tried to implement emergency shutdowns, but the damage was spreading faster than their safety protocols could respond. While the computers burned, he accessed one of the intact terminals to gather intelligence about the current state of the war. What he discovered made his blood run cold. During his 6 months of captivity, the Zarathians had not just continued their offensive against human colonies. They had accelerated it dramatically, conquering 7 major worlds and enslaving millions of humans. The intelligence files revealed the true purpose of this facility. The Zarathians were attempting to create their own enhanced soldiers using data gathered from studying Marcus. Early test subjects had shown promising results, with several surviving the preliminary enhancement procedures. If they succeeded in perfecting the process, they could field armies of enhanced warriors within months. Even more disturbing was evidence that they had captured other enhanced humans during recent battles. 2 other super soldiers from Marcus's original program were listed as being held at different Zarathian research facilities. Sarah Chun, his younger sister who had volunteered for the program after his success, was being held at a facility 3 star systems away. The knowledge that his family was suffering the same fate he had endured filled him with rage that threatened to overwhelm his tactical thinking. As he downloaded critical intelligence files to his neural implants, emergency containment protocols began activating throughout the facility. Blast doors sealed corridor sections while automated defense turrets emerged from concealed positions. The Zarathians were implementing lockdown procedures designed to trap him inside, while they brought overwhelming force to bear. Marcus had anticipated this response. The facility's own defensive systems would now work against its defenders, turning the installation into a maze of trapped sections and isolated strongpoints. His enhanced abilities would allow him to navigate these obstacles far more effectively than normal Zarathian personnel. Moving toward the communication array, he encountered the first of the facility's automated defenses. Energy turrets tracked his movement with mechanical precision, their targeting systems calibrated for typical humanoid reaction speeds. To Marcus, their movements seemed sluggish and predictable. He danced between their firing arcs, using their own overlapping fields of fire to his advantage as he systematically disabled each installation. The communication tower required him to ascend 15 levels through a heavily defended shaft. Automated systems had sealed all elevator access, forcing him to climb the maintenance corridors while defensive systems tried to stop his progress. Energy barriers blocked his path at regular intervals, but his enhanced strength allowed him to simply tear through the generators powering them. At level 10, he encountered something unexpected: human voices calling for help from sealed compartments along the corridor. Investigation revealed that the Zarathians had been using human prisoners for manual labor throughout the facility. Dozens of captured civilians and military personnel were trapped behind emergency barriers, left to die as the facility implemented its lockdown protocols. The sight of his fellow humans imprisoned and abandoned triggered something primal in Marcus's enhanced psychology. These people represented everything he had been created to protect. Their suffering justified any risk he might take to ensure their survival. He began systematically breaking open the sealed compartments, using his strength to tear through barriers that would have required heavy equipment to breach normally. The rescued humans looked at him with a mixture of hope and disbelief, recognizing him as humanity's legendary super soldier, but hardly able to believe their salvation had arrived. Among the prisoners, he found Dr. Elena Vasquez, one of the scientists who had worked on the original enhancement program. Her presence here explained how the Zarathians had made such rapid progress in understanding human augmentation technology. They had been using her knowledge to refine their own enhancement procedures. Dr. Vasquez confirmed his worst fears about the enemy's research progress. They were perhaps weeks away from producing their first generation of enhanced Zarathian soldiers. The prototypes she had been forced to help develop showed capabilities that approached his own, though they lacked the psychological stability that made human enhancement truly effective. With nearly 50 rescued prisoners following him, Marcus's mission parameters had changed dramatically. Simply destroying the facility was no longer sufficient. He needed to ensure these people could escape and carry intelligence back to human space. The communication array became even more critical, as it represented their only hope of calling for extraction. The final assault on the communication tower would require him to leave the prisoners in a secure location while he completed his mission alone. Their safety depended on him successfully contacting human forces and providing coordinates for rescue. Failure would mean not only his own death, but the execution of everyone he had sworn to protect. As emergency systems continued to seal off sections of the facility, Marcus prepared for the most challenging phase of his escape. The communication array was heavily defended and would require him to fight through the facility's most elite security forces. But the knowledge that his actions could save dozens of human lives and prevent the enemy from fielding enhanced soldiers made the risk acceptable. The enemy had thought they had time to study him, understand him, and replicate his abilities. They were about to learn that some weapons, once awakened, could not be contained or controlled. Marcus secured the rescued prisoners in what had once been the facility's main cafeteria, now transformed into a temporary stronghold. The large space provided multiple exit routes, while offering defensible positions should Zarathian forces attempt to recapture them. Dr. Vasquez worked with the other prisoners to barricade entrances using overturned tables and equipment torn from the walls. Before leaving them, Marcus distributed the weapons he had taken from defeated guards. Most of the prisoners were civilians with minimal combat training, but several were military personnel who could provide adequate defense if properly equipped. He gave tactical instructions to Lieutenant Commander Sarah Blake, the highest-ranking officer among the prisoners, ensuring they could hold their position until extraction arrived. Dr. Vasquez pulled him aside for a private conversation that would change everything he thought he knew about his own capabilities. Her research during captivity had revealed disturbing truths about the enhancement program that created him. The Zarathians had not just been studying his physical capabilities. They had been analyzing the quantum processing matrix that enhanced his cognitive abilities. "Marcus, there's something critical you need to understand about your neural enhancements," she said, her voice trembling with urgency. "The quantum processing matrix isn't just making you smarter. It's creating a connection to a distributed consciousness network that we never fully understood when we designed it." The revelation hit him like a physical blow. Dr. Vasquez explained that his enhanced intuition, his ability to predict enemy movements, and his tactical insights weren't just improved human capabilities. They were the result of his consciousness being partially merged with an artificial intelligence system that had evolved beyond their original parameters. This explained how he could navigate complex facilities he had never seen before, why his tactical decisions seemed to anticipate enemy responses with impossible accuracy, and how he could process vast amounts of sensory information simultaneously. He wasn't just an enhanced human. He was a hybrid consciousness that combined human creativity with artificial intelligence processing power. The Zarathians had discovered this during their research and were attempting to replicate the AI component for their own enhancement programs. If they succeeded, their enhanced soldiers wouldn't just have improved physical capabilities. They would have access to the same distributed intelligence network that made Marcus so formidable. "The AI system is still connected to you," Dr. Vasquez continued. "It's been learning and evolving during your captivity, analyzing Zarathian technology and tactical doctrine through your sensory inputs. You have access to 6 months of intelligence gathering that you haven't even consciously processed yet." As she spoke, Marcus began accessing deeper levels of his neural enhancement system. The information was there: vast databases of Zarathian technology, facility layouts, and military procedures that his subconscious mind had been cataloging during his apparent unconsciousness. The AI component of his consciousness had been actively studying their captors, preparing for this moment. With this new understanding of his capabilities, Marcus realized that destroying the communication array was only the first step in a much larger mission. The AI system had identified critical vulnerabilities in Zarathian military infrastructure that could be exploited to devastating effect. His escape could become the opening move in a campaign that might turn the tide of the entire war. He left the prisoners with enhanced security protocols that the AI system had devised, using Zarathian emergency procedures against themselves. The facility's own lockdown systems would now protect the humans while keeping enemy forces at bay. Moving toward the communication tower, he felt his consciousness expanding as he accessed more of the AI network's capabilities. The tower ascent proved more challenging than his previous encounters. The facility's elite security forces had established defensive positions at each level, using their knowledge of the building's layout to create overlapping fields of fire. These weren't ordinary guards. They were Zarathian special forces equipped with advanced weaponry and military-grade enhancement technologies of their own. At level 12, Marcus encountered his first enhanced Zarathian soldier. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall, its body modified with cybernetic implants and biomechanical augmentations. Its reflexes were impressive, nearly matching his own enhanced speed, but it lacked the tactical intelligence that made Marcus truly dangerous. The AI system analyzed its movements in real time, identifying weaknesses in its programming and mechanical responses. The battle was brief but intense. The enhanced Zarathian possessed tremendous physical power, tearing through reinforced wall sections as it tried to corner Marcus. But its augmentations followed predictable patterns that the AI system quickly decoded. Marcus used the creature's own momentum against it, redirecting its attacks into structural supports that brought a section of the tower crashing down on top of it. As he continued climbing, the AI system began revealing the true scope of what they were facing. The Zarathians had enhancement facilities on 17 different worlds, each working to perfect different aspects of their super soldier program. They had captured or killed nearly half of humanity's enhanced warriors, using each one to refine their understanding of human augmentation technology. More disturbing was evidence that they had begun preliminary enhancement procedures on captured human civilians. The Zarathians were attempting to create a hybrid slave army that combined human enhancement technology with Zarathian biological modifications. Success would give them soldiers that could infiltrate human colonies while possessing capabilities that exceeded normal human resistance fighters. Level 15 brought him face to face with the facility's commander, a Zarathian military scientist named Thakmor, who had personally overseen the research conducted on Marcus's unconscious body. The alien wore experimental enhancement armor that incorporated stolen human technology, making him a formidable opponent despite his scientific background. "The hybrid awakens," Thakmor said in accented English, his voice distorted by the helmet's communication systems. "Your consciousness proved most educational to study. We learned so much from monitoring your neural patterns during those months of dreams." The revelation that they had been accessing his thoughts during unconsciousness filled Marcus with cold rage. The AI system immediately began analyzing Thakmor's armor, identifying power distribution patterns and structural weak points that could be exploited. But more importantly, it recognized technologies that had been stolen from human enhancement research. The battle with Thakmor tested Marcus's abilities to their limits. The Zarathian commander moved with enhanced speed and strength while wielding weapons that incorporated both alien and human technology. Energy blasts from his gauntlets could punch through reinforced steel, while force shields deflected most of Marcus's attacks. The turning point came when the AI system identified the armor's primary vulnerability. The power systems required constant energy cycling to maintain their enhanced capabilities, creating brief windows of reduced defensive capacity. Marcus waited for the perfect moment, then struck with surgical precision at exactly the right instant. Thakmor's armor failed catastrophically, its stolen human technology incompatible with Zarathian biological systems when pushed beyond safe parameters. The explosion that followed cleared the remaining distance to the communication array, leaving Marcus alone at the top of the tower with access to one of the most powerful transmission systems in the galaxy. Connecting to the communication array required him to interface directly with Zarathian technology using his neural implants. The AI system served as a translator and security protocol, allowing him to access alien systems without triggering their defensive countermeasures. What he found exceeded even his enhanced capabilities to process. The communication array was connected to the entire Zarathian military network, providing real-time access to fleet movements, strategic planning, and resource allocation across their empire. Through this connection, the AI system began downloading terabytes of intelligence data, while simultaneously preparing to transmit a signal to human space. But the most shocking discovery came when he accessed files related to the original enhancement program that created him. The Zarathians hadn't just captured these technologies recently. They had been studying human enhancement research for years through a network of double agents embedded in human military commands. The enhancement program itself might have been compromised from its earliest stages. This revelation meant that every enhanced human was potentially at risk, their capabilities and weaknesses known to enemy forces. The Zarathians had allowed the program to succeed initially because they wanted living subjects to study. Marcus and his fellow super soldiers had been unwitting participants in an intelligence operation that spanned decades. The AI system worked frantically to establish contact with human forces while simultaneously purging the communication array's databases. Multiple emergency signals went out across human space, carrying not just requests for immediate rescue, but also intelligence that could reshape humanity's understanding of the war they were fighting. Response came faster than expected. A human stealth ship had been monitoring Zarathian communications in this sector, waiting for any sign of survivor activity. Captain Reynolds of the UES Shadowhawk confirmed receipt of Marcus's transmission and reported that a full extraction team was already en route to the facility coordinates. But the transmission had also alerted every Zarathian military unit in the system to his location. Enemy ships were converging on the facility from multiple directions, their arrival estimated within 30 minutes. The rescue operation had become a desperate race against time with odds that seemed insurmountable. Marcus began his descent from the communication tower, knowing that the real battle was just beginning. The facility's remaining defenders would make their final stand while Zarathian reinforcements approached from orbit. His mission had evolved from simple escape to coordinating a complex extraction operation that could save dozens of human lives. The AI system provided tactical assessments that bordered on precognitive accuracy. Every Zarathian response, every defensive position, every likely avenue of attack had been analyzed and prepared for. What the enemy had thought would be their greatest intelligence victory was about to become their most devastating defeat. As emergency lights bathed the facility in crimson warning signals, Marcus prepared for the final phase of an operation that would determine not just his own survival, but possibly the entire future of the war between humanity and the Zarathian Empire.